You log into your financial app and you notice a change you didn't ask for. Perhaps your spending power has suddenly doubled, or perhaps it has been cut in half without warning. It can feel invasive or frustratingly unpredictable. But from the bank's perspective, this isn't random. It is the result of a continuous, automated risk calculation. Welcome back. Today, we are analyzing the back-end mechanics of the United States credit card system, specifically regarding credit limits. Most consumers view a credit limit as a static number, a fixed agreement established when the account was opened. However, from the financial institution's perspective, a credit limit is a fluid variable. Because credit cards represent unsecured debt, meaning there is no physical asset like a house or car for the bank to repossess if you don't pay, the lender's primary tool for safety is the ability to adjust exposure in real time. In this video, we will examine the algorithms that trigger these automatic changes. We will look at why the system increases limits to incentivize behavior, why it decreases them to mitigate risk, and the trade-offs that create friction for the everyday user. To understand why limits change, we must first understand the surveillance mechanism. The system does not rely on a human loan officer reviewing your file every month. It relies on automated account reviews. Major issuers utilize two streams of data. The first is internal performance data. This is what the bank sees directly: your payment history with them, your balance relative to your limit, and your spending velocity. The second stream comes from credit bureaus. Banks perform periodic soft polls on your credit report. These do not impact your credit score, but they allow the lender to see your behavior with other institutions. The algorithm is constantly calculating a probability of default. If the probability drops, the system may offer more credit. If the probability rises, even slightly, the system looks to reduce exposure. This process operates at scale. A single major U.S. bank may manage 50 million accounts. Therefore, the decision to change your limit is purely mathematical, based on where your data points sit within a risk model at that specific moment. Let's look at the first scenario, the unsolicited increase. Why would a bank give you access to more money if you didn't ask for it? From the system's perspective, this is a strategic move to capture market share. This concept is often referred to as top of wallet. Data analysis shows that consumers tend to use the card with the highest open availability for large purchases. If you have a card with a $2,000 limit and another with a $10,000 limit, you are statistically more likely to use the $10,000 card for a vacation or appliance purchase. By proactively raising the limit, the issuer is attempting to become your primary payment method. Even if you pay your balance in full and never pay interest, the bank generates revenue through interchange fees, the small percentage charged to the merchant every time you swipe. A higher limit facilitates higher spending, which drives higher fee revenue. Furthermore, at scale, the system has to assume that a percentage of users will eventually carry a balance. Increasing the limit increases the potential revolving balance, which is the primary driver of interest income. Now, let's analyze the more frustrating scenario, the unsolicited decrease. From the system's perspective, reducing a credit limit is a defensive mechanism. This often happens due to a phenomenon known in the industry as balance chasing. If the algorithm detects financial stress, such as rising balances on other cards or a missed payment with a different lender, it assumes you are becoming a higher risk. The system wants to limit its exposure before you max out the card and potentially default. Consequently, the bank lowers your limit to just above your current balance. They are effectively chasing the balance down to zero to prevent further borrowing. Another reason for a decrease is inactivity. Banks must hold capital in reserve against the credit lines they extend. An unused credit line represents a cost to the bank. It is capital they cannot deploy elsewhere. If a customer hasn't used a card in 12 months, the system views that credit line as an inefficient allocation of resources. Cutting the limit frees up that capital to be lent to an active revenue-generating user.
This brings us to why this design frustrates normal people and the inherent trade-offs of the system. The primary frustration stems from the credit utilization ratio. In the U.S. credit scoring models, a significant portion of a consumer's score is determined by how much credit they use versus how much they have available. If a bank suddenly cuts a limit from $10,000 to $2,000 and the customer has a $1,500 balance, their utilization spikes from 15% to 75%. This can cause the customer's credit score to drop even if they have never missed a payment. This trade-off exists because the system prioritizes institutional safety over individual stability. Designed to minimize risk, the algorithms are reactive. They do not know why your spending patterns changed. Perhaps you are renovating a home, or perhaps you lost your job. The system cannot distinguish between the two, so it defaults to the protective measure. It creates a feedback loop where the system, in trying to protect itself from risk, can inadvertently make the customer look riskier to other lenders. Ultimately, the fluidity of credit limits is a reminder of the nature of the banking relationship. The credit limit is not the customer's money, it is the bank's capital, extended temporarily based on a continually updating risk profile. While the changes can feel personal or arbitrary, they are simply the output of a system designed to maximize transaction volume while minimizing the probability of default. If you found this explanation of financial back-end systems helpful, you can explore our other breakdowns of payment processing and credit reporting here. Thanks for watching.